Oh, crap. Here comes Brandy. Don't say nothing.
Oh, okay. With the sun on my head, it looks like I have a halo. How appropriate.
That's just one granted service.
You leave the 99 to find the one every time. Before I spoke a word, before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. And you have been so, so good to me. Yeah. So I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind. Come on, every voice lift it all. You're the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, twice till I'm found.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but I'm just going to nod over here. Oh, yeah, you're a horrible eater. Yeah. They were making, I asked them to make you one, and the craft ladies to make you one that was permanent. So that you won't get anything. Yeah.
I was trying an outfit,
When I was your fool, still your love was wrong for me. And you have been so, so good to me. When I felt no words, you paid it all for me. Yeah, you did. You have been so, so kind to me. Every voice, you're only overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, twice till I found me.
Oh, I thought, I'll just start at the end of this song, but it's 11 minutes and 56 long. What? So we're just going to slow this one down. Oh, there it ended. Hello, everyone. We're going to get started for tonight, our Wednesday night live. We're doing it. We decided to do inside. So if you'd like to come to the service, you can come and sit in the narthex with us all. Or you can still listen to it on the FM radio dial out in the parking lot. I have no idea if it's working, but if you're out there and hopefully you can hear it, seems to be on and everything seems to be well. Or you can watch it live on YouTube also, our live streaming. And we shouldn't have much interference now with the wind or any of that kind of stuff. So it should be a pretty good night. As always, an interesting week around here. We have a lot of stuff coming up, and we have some changes and things that are going on. Obviously, our food program is coming up Saturday. We have a sign out front. I put it out today. A wonderful windy day. If you've ever tried to put a sign up in the wind, Jack and I had a wonderful time. And went and got food today. We do have food here, about 21 boxes of food available to you. We would appreciate it if you could stop by and pick some up or take some with you tonight when you leave. We have milk in the fridge again. And this time they actually had hot dogs, the Bar K hot dogs, which I think are the cheapest hot dogs you can buy, which are very good because that's all I buy. And so, you put enough chili on a hot dog, it really doesn't matter what hot dog it is. So you can get those. They're in the freezer, and there's some chicken legs left, meatballs, and still some oven roasted chicken breast that you can get also in there. And so hopefully you can get all of those things tonight or come by the church tomorrow. And then the news on the pumpkin patch, which was scheduled for Friday. We'll be sending out an email tomorrow, but we'll also be calling people to try to make sure everyone know that has been canceled. I got a email from, hold on, let me finish explaining. That's what's happening when you have a live service here. Everyone's like, what? And then they start talking about, it's trickle effect. The pumpkin patch is having problems getting trucks due to COVID and the hurricanes that are going on. All trucks. Brian Kitchenmaster actually explained this to me. I wasn't aware of how they did their trucking, but there's a trucking website where you go and you put your job on there, and independent truck drivers can take the job, and then when they get to Michigan, they pick up stuff here and take it to another location, so it keeps going and going and going. Well, with everything going to the hurricane area, there's not any need for truck drivers to come to Michigan. So we called the pumpkin patch to try to clarify what that meant, because we have a big team of people coming Friday, which we will try to get word out to. But what they said to us was they don't have a truck, and they don't know when they'll get a truck, but they have put it up on the board, and they have requested a truck. The minute a truck comes in, it will be headed our direction. But they don't know when that will be or if that will be. So everything's on hold. They said they'll send an email out when they do get someone who takes the truck and they pull it into the farm. They'll email us that the truck is at the farm. They'll email us again when the pumpkins are loaded onto the truck from the farm, and then they will schedule a date when the truck driver will be here from there, because it is across the country, I think. And so we'll get more information as that comes available. They're hoping to get us at least 2 weeks of selling pumpkins. So we're playing it by ear and trying to figure it out as we go along. And so hopefully we'll get the pumpkin patch up and running. But that means everyone's got Friday night off to go and enjoy and spend with your family and your friends and do some fun stuff. And you don't have to move pumpkins. So, but take it easy that night and go to bed early, because you're going to need to be here for food ministry, because we need lots of volunteers. We have lots of food with a jump in our food programs and other things like that. So we need as much help as we can get. So if you can volunteer, we'll be here at 9:00. We'll be passing out food from 11 to 1. And we're hoping to have a good food program that day. So if you know someone, send them over, and we'll get them a lot of food. We have tons of food. Today we went and got some more. I don't know if you remember the fruit and nut mix that we had about 4 pallets of at one time. And I think everyone ate the fruit and nut mix. Do some people in the room still have fruit and nut mix? Raise your hands. It's okay. Okay, so Cam and Athena. All right, what?
Wait, what? I missed your question.
Really? You just
Who remembers?
Athena just raised her hand without actually hearing the question. She's such a good Baptist. And yeah, that's right. I didn't think we had fruit and nut mix, but okay.
Yes, we did.
You guys do? Okay, so
We liked it.
we got more. And so eat up all you have so you can get more.
One is right away.
All righty. So we got that coming up, obviously Saturday. And then if you weren't part of Glenn's thing, we had a good time at Glenn's church with his launch service. He had 2 services, and I talked to the people who went to the 4:30 service, and they said it was just as much fun and wild and crazy times, and they enjoyed it. And so it was a good day. Busy weekend, but definitely a good day for our church to help sponsor a church launch. So it was a lot of fun, and we did all that. We are going to jump into our topic for tonight, which is we've been talking about the 10 Commandments. And I had a letter actually this week from somebody who's been watching on YouTube that was really excited about our 10 Commandments. And they have noticed, and they said they had noticed in their group of friends who call themselves Christians, that the Lord's name in vain has been used quite frequently, and she was asking how to confront something like that in a group setting where Christians are misusing the Lord's name in vain. And so we talked about that briefly, and if you want to go back and look at the third commandment, it was about 4 weeks ago, the week before I went on vacation to South Dakota, we did the third commandment. And the reason we did that was because I also believe it's one of the most misused by Christians publicly without really caring about it. And so taking that language out of your vocabulary is important. I actually had somebody that I confronted about this week tell me that they say it without knowing, so they don't feel bad about saying it. And I was trying to get them to understand that just because you don't realize you're saying it doesn't make it okay. And that if it's that bad already in your behavior that you use that word, God's name, in vain, without even realizing it, that means that you have watered down that commandment so bad that it doesn't mean anything to you anymore. And if you claim to be a follower of God, it has to be a priority in your life to change your behavior to line up with these commandments, not the other way around. And the third commandment, although it's very touchy, and we talked about it, I think, thoroughly, so we're not going to rehash that tonight, but just to tell you that in a group setting, that I would pull that person aside separately after it's over, quietly, privately, and just tell them that it bothers you that you use the Lord's name in vain. And if they don't understand, that's their choice. They can choose to use whatever language they want, but as a Christian, it's our responsibility to point it out, because if someone has a bad habit, then and they really want to change and be more like God, then we should help them with that habit by letting them know when they actually say it, and that it's inappropriate. You cannot throw God's name in vain around, and that's why it's one of the top 10 commandments in the Bible, and it's number 3. And so tonight we're talking about number 4, which is probably the most misrepresented commandment in the Bible. It's also the longest commandment, and it's the only commandment not referenced in the New Testament. All other 9 commandments are mentioned in the New Testament. This is the only one that's not, and we'll talk about that. But I thought I'd read it to you because it's the longest first. And so this is what it says. Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your oxen and donkeys and other livestock, and any foreigners living among you. All your male and female servants must rest as you do. Remember that you were once slaves in Egypt, but the Lord your God brought you out with a strong hand and powerful arm. That is why the Lord your God has commanded you to rest on the Sabbath day. That's the commandment. It's the longest one, and it is probably the most misunderstood. And we'll talk about that and get into why it's misunderstood, and we'll kind of deal with the idea of this 4th commandment. So, growing up, obviously, we learned the 4th commandment was probably taught to us. If you're anyone like me, you were probably taught that the 4th commandment implied your attendance on Sunday. Many of us were raised with those strict rules about Sunday behavior. No swimming on Sunday, no dates on Sunday, no television on Sunday, no outdoor sports on Sunday, no newspapers on Sunday, no going to work on Sunday, no even going out to eat on Sunday. When I was growing up, we never went out to eat on Sunday. We'd always go home. Mom would always have something going in the oven. Sometimes we had people over on Sunday and ate and relaxed with people. But I don't remember going out to eat very much on Sunday. There wasn't many places open on Sunday. If you keep going back longer in my history and in the history before me, there was many people who were closed on Sundays. And they would cite this as a reason. When we lived in Georgia, they would take cloths and they would put them up over the beer coolers on Sundays because no one was allowed to buy beer on Sundays in the state of Georgia. And I think we were back there recently and they've now changed that law. But it used to be important that Sunday was kind of set aside as kind of a holy day. But that is actually not what the commandment is talking about. So all the times you've been guilt-tripped about the 4th commandment, about not attending church and that you are somehow breaking the fourth commandment. Let me give you a little bit of history of the fourth commandment. The fourth commandment is talking about Sabbath. The Sabbath day in the historical reasoning in Israel was on Saturday. As we know in creation, the Bible says that God worked for 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. The seventh day is actually Saturday. Sunday is the first day of the week. And so even in our calendar, we work 6 days, and on the seventh day, we rest. And that was kind of the idea. When the new country was being formed, and they were putting religious rituals into our country, they made a 6-day work week with Saturday being a day of rest and then Sunday being a day of worship. So if you ever wondered why our country has a 5-day work week, and it's pretty common throughout our history, it's because when the colonies set into place, they followed the biblical commands that 6 days you'll work and the seventh day you'll rest. The first day of the week they set aside for worship. So that's kind of how it's always been. But the idea was that the Jewish people would rest. We have this unbelievable work ethic that goes on in our world, and the desire to get money is so strong sometimes that we don't rest. And when we don't rest, our body deteriorates. When God created 6 days and then he rested on the seventh, was God tired? Anybody want to answer that? Was God tired? Okay, we don't know. We don't believe God can get tired. He can't get exhausted, although he does get aggravated with us. He doesn't get exhausted or tired. He's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So he rested as a way to show us how important rest should be to our lives. So important that he actually made it important to him for a day to rest as opposed to continue to work. We do know that, obviously, medically, if you work 7 days a week, you can only do that for a period of time without rest before your body begins to break down and you begin to have health issues. If you don't relax and you don't get good rest and you don't take a day away from work, it will actually destroy you over a period of time. So when the Bible puts down these commandments, remember, they're all for the benefit of your life. They're not to the benefit necessarily of just God. They're to the benefit of you in your relationship with God, but they're also the best habits for your life. And so the Bible is actually encouraging us on this fourth commandment to actually take it from a different thing. Now, let me give you the history of why we worship on Sundays real quick so you can understand how people have always said now that the new Sabbath day is Sunday, and so therefore Sunday is the Lord's day, and so therefore you should not work on Sunday, you should not do this, and you should go to church, and you should do all these things, and that is Sunday. The Old Testament, they worshipped on Saturday, the Sabbath day, and they didn't do anything that day. By the time the Bible rolled around in the New Testament, there was over 700 laws that they had to follow on that one day, to the point where Jesus even made fun of their laws and actually talked about how ridiculous they had become, because they said if a goat fell into a hole and was going to die, that they weren't allowed to pull the goat out of the hole because that would have been considered work on the Sabbath, and they would have been killed for pulling the goat out of the hole. And Jesus said, that stuff's ridiculous. Obviously, doing good on the Sabbath is okay. Jesus healed on the Sabbath. Jesus did other things on the Sabbath that really made the Pharisees angry. His disciples even ate on the Sabbath, picked grain, which would have been considered work, to eat on the Sabbath. And Jesus kind of abolished the idea of the Sabbath in the aspect of religious laws. And New Testament rolls around. Jesus was raised on the first day of the week. And so the New Testament, they began to worship on the first day of the week to celebrate the resurrection of the Lord. And so that is how Sunday actually started as a tradition. Started in New Testament times and throughout history has become the predominant day of worship. Many people have come along afterwards and said, hey, isn't it nice to start off your week with the Lord at being the beginning of your week and then rest at the end of your week? And so following God from beginning to end in your life. So on Sundays we worship, on Saturdays we rest, and getting ready for worship on Sunday again, starting off a new week, rest, relaxed, refreshed, and ready to go and through that. And so the Sabbath, that was kind of how they did it in the early church. And the Sabbath was very important to a Jewish person. The law did not continue to tell us to obey the Sabbath as a official day. There is nowhere in the Bible where it says we should worship on Sunday. There is nowhere in the Bible where it says we should worship on Saturday. As a matter of fact, the New Testament church worshiped every day. They would get together almost every night at someone else's house. They would worship and pray together and have fellowship together. The Acts chapter 2 church talks about they gathered daily together to sing and to have a good time and to fellowship together and encourage each other. The metamorphosis that took place from Old Testament law to New Testament church was not only that the worship days didn't matter because every day belonged to the Lord, but that whatever day you did worship, that you would attend. As a matter of fact, that's where we get the whatever day we worship. The Bible says that you should not forsake the fellowshipping of believers, as some have done, and have shipwrecked their own faith. So what the Bible was encouraging us to do is whatever your community decides to do as a worship, you should make yourself faithful to that worship, which many people in our church have been attending faithfully for years and years and years. And it's very rare to see them miss a Sunday, or if they do, they feel really bad about missing a Sunday. And the question then is how important is God to your life, and how important is worship on a Sunday? It's not meant to be a guilt trip. It's meant to be an opportunity. As a matter of fact, somebody said this week in a podcast I was listening to, they would hope that Sunday would be the best day of the week for you, that it's the most exciting day of the week. And if you think about it, if we work all week long or sit at home all week long, whatever we do, getting together, fellowshipping and singing together, worshiping and laughing together tends to be one of the greatest days of our week. And so when we have coffee hour and we hang out and we do other things like that, it turns out that if you look at your rest of your schedule, probably Sunday is the most exciting day of your week, which is kind of the way God intended it to be for believers, that when we get together, it becomes a highlight. And so church was important, and church was meant to be important. It's not exactly what the Sabbath day is talking about here, but people have guilt tripped people through the years using that, and it's not actually what it's meaning. You shouldn't have to guilt people to come to church. If you do, then they don't have a really good relationship with God. Because if you have a really good relationship with God, you will want to go to church. You will want to have a relationship with God. The saddest statement I hear all the time is people who say, "Oh, I don't need to go to church to have a relationship with God." There's only one problem with that. God disagrees with you on that. So the God you're claiming that you have a relationship with disagrees with you on that stance. He would encourage you to go to church because many people have shipwrecked their faith by not going to church. And I'm sure everybody has got somebody in their mind right now that they probably knew at one time used to come to church and then started not coming to church and made excuses. All of a sudden, their kids had games every Sunday. All of a sudden, they had this going on. All of a sudden, they never came back to church, and their life was then, their faith was shipwrecked. They're no longer active in the church. They're no longer active followers of God, and they slipped away from the church, and there we have it, right? Once again, the Bible is true in what it is saying. So when we get down to that, we talk about all the different conflicting viewpoints with this and that and all the other things. But the bottom line is the fourth commandment was meant to be about rest and your relationship with God. And as we get into that part of it, we'll look at basically Sunday is not a Sabbath. So I want you to take that out of your vocabulary. The fourth commandment is not about Sunday. It is about rest, though. Even though we don't follow the Sabbath anymore, your rest day may not be Saturday. It is about making sure that you take a priority of a day and make sure that you have a day of rest, that you're not working. You're not held to a bunch of religious laws for that day, but it is a day that you should relax. What I find is people will go, well, I got to take a day off work so that I can do all the work around the house, right? That's not what the Bible is talking about. The Bible is not saying that you take a day off of your regular work so that you can continue to work and not rest for the day that you have off. The Bible is actually encouraging you to have a complete day of rest. No work. Now, I know this may sound like a crazy talk to some people who work constantly, but it is encouraging you to do that for your own health and your own relationship with God. And I don't know about you, but if my weeks, which they do quite frequently, run crazy, and I try to take every Friday off as much as possible to have just a day where it's rest. And so I try not to work on that day, try not to do things on that day as best as possible. It's not always easy, but I try to. Why? Because if I keep running without rest, eventually I'll burn out. I also get edgy. I get temperamental in the way I deal with people. Or what's even worse is sometimes I look fine, but on the inside, my head, I'm having conversations that aren't so healthy, especially when somebody makes me mad, right? I may not vocalize the words, but in my head, I'm pretty rude. But that's what happens when you don't get a lot of rest. It begins to deteriorate your relationships. And eventually it begins to grind on you and you begin to get irritated easily. So when the Bible encourages us to rest, it is encouraging us to rest for a lot of different reasons, but one of them is to keep a good relationship with God, because it's healthy to have rest in your life. And then a good relationship with others too. And so I would encourage you, at least as we get into this, that you set aside some sort of a Sabbath in your life. Now, if you want that to be on Sunday, that's okay. And I think this is the bottom line, is that the Bible is not saying which day you have to have your Sabbath on. If you want to combine your Sabbath and your Sunday, there's nowhere in the Bible that says, whoa, how dare you take, you need to have 2 days. No, the Bible is just encouraging you to have at least 1 day of rest. And if it's restful for you to come to church and then go home and relax in the afternoon, then make that your day of rest. There's a lot of people who have adopted that in their personal lives, and that's fine. On Saturdays, they take a day off work and they work it around the house and stuff like that. But Sundays, you'll find that people will come to church. They'll hang out for a while. They'll go home. They may go to lunch with people, and then they relax all day. I don't know about you, but for some reason, a nap on Sunday is amazing. At about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my eyelids are struggling. Athena has already hit the bed by then, and she's napping. And we'll nap many times. I fight it because I don't like napping, because it makes me feel weird, and then I got to go to bed later. But I try to fight napping. But I'll tell you, when you get a nap on a Sunday, it really feels like you're relaxing. It really feels like you're resting. And I really think that's kind of the way God intended it to be, that you would be resting and relaxing on a day where you worshiped. And if you need another day, then make sure you have that day. God never intended you for you to work 7 days and to wear yourself out. And that includes church too. Churches are notorious for needing volunteers all the time and running around the clock and things that are going on. You have to manage yourself too. As much as I need your help doing things around the church and volunteering for food ministry or other things like that, if it comes down to a Saturday and you have not had a day of rest, then take the day of rest over a day of service, because it's important, because it's a commandment. And you realize as we get down through the commandments, there is no commandment to help Tim on that Saturday do food ministry. I tried to write it in as the 11th commandment, but they rejected it. So I just think that it's important that we take a day of rest and we relax. 6 days, and then we rest. Obviously, work was part of the Bible here. It was encouraging you to work. We have a culture now that kind of shies away from work. Dealing with even my own son, millennials and Gen X, the work ethic is a little bit different than our work ethic. And you can see that in a lot of the colleges. A lot of the high schools are changing a little bit. The high schoolers are being raised with a better work ethic. But the college students, you see very little work ethic in them. Well, because we were all raised that the Bible actually encouraged us to work, to find pride in our work, and to work to the best of our ability. Many of you have, at least in the room that I'm looking around, have retired from years and years and years and years of work. Some of you 40, some of you 50 years of work. You've retired, and now you're enjoying the rest part because you worked hard. If you wouldn't have worked hard all those years, you would have never been able to retire and enjoy the later part of your life. So God encourages a work ethic. He encourages you to even work 6 days a week if that's plausible for you. but make sure that you have rest. So work first and then rest. It was not no work and rest all you want. It was work, then rest. We no longer live under the law, so all those laws that were attached to that day do not exist anymore. But the abiding principle of rest is still part of what we do. And I would encourage you that to remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. What that means is that that day is not necessarily the day we worship, but that day is, you're doing that day because of God. There's a difference between saying, well, I'm just honoring this rest day, than it is to say, I'm doing this for God because he asked me to do it. You are actually obeying God by taking a day of rest and making sure that you take that day because God asked you to take that day, because he cares about you and he wants you to keep that day holy. And if you're resting on that day, then it is holy. And so let me encourage you to continue to do that and to push away from allowing those days to get out of your life. Go buy a hammock, put it up somewhere, not necessarily in the winter, but to have a day of rest, relax, read a book, do whatever it takes to relax on that day. We need a weekly Sabbath to restore our perspective, and we should remember the Sabbath today. So when we get to the bottom of that, it gives us time to reflect on God and a beautiful day to relax and not allow things to get into our lives and to push back work for one day. When all of it's said and done, we have honored that fourth commandment by the way we actually rest. So the first commandment, obviously the first four are all tied in. The first three are all about God. The fourth one is beginning the process of obedience to God. And the day of rest was a command from him to make sure that you rest. And so hopefully you will look at your calendars in your life and you would say, how do I obey this commandment? Now, again, if something is enjoyable to you, it's not work. Work is something that you do to make money from, and it's work is something you do for your livelihood. It may not be your favorite thing to do. It might be something you enjoy, but it may not be your favorite thing to do. But maybe mowing your lawn is one of those things you enjoy to do, and it does bring rest into your life when you mow the lawn because you enjoy it so much. Seeing progress, seeing something done. I know every time I go over to the kitchen master's house, they have flower gardens all over their yard, and their yard looks like it should be in a home and garden show. And you go into their backyard, which nobody sees, and it's immaculate, and all of the flowers and all that stuff. They love doing that kind of stuff. It's not laborsome to them. When they're done with their flower gardens, they feel good. They don't feel exhausted like they had worked. They enjoy it. I think that's what the Bible is actually encouraging us to do. Not those type of things. Those things are okay to have on a day of rest because they bring fulfillment and enjoyment in your life. Getting together with your family, your friends. This isn't what we're talking about. We're not talking about the way they turned the Sabbath into a day where you lock yourself into your house and you don't even flip on a light switch. Do you realize that the Sabbath now in the Jewish tradition, they can't turn on a light switch on Saturdays. They can't open a refrigerator door on the Sabbath. They've gone absolutely crazy with how they apply this day of rest. The Bible doesn't ask us to do that. The Bible asks you just to make it a priority that you do rest. So the fourth commandment gives you an opportunity to be set free to rest and not have to feel bad about it, but to enjoy it. So that's the fourth commandment. Next week, we'll get into the fifth commandment, which is the commandment about honoring your parents. Honor your father and mother as the Lord your God commanded you. And we will see how important that commandment is based on what we're seeing in our culture today. And so we'll dive into that and hopefully get some more information as we go through these 10 commandments. It's been kind of an enjoyable study. I'm glad that you on YouTube are enjoying it. Appreciate the letters, and we'll continue to talk about them as we continue to roll through these 10 commandments. Don't forget food program on Saturday, and there's food out here now that you can get, fresh vegetables, and then of course the stuff in the freezers. And just to encourage you, if you're watching on YouTube right now and you're going to come by tomorrow and get food, if you open the freezer door, let me just say these kind words to you. You could get hurt. So when you open it, stand back, and then please put everything back in the freezer that falls out. Don't try to shut the door and just leave it, because we had one door that got left open on the freezer and some stuff got ruined recently. And so we would encourage you, just take a moment. Hopefully there's enough people here tonight that'll take it out, that it won't cave in on you. But stop by, get some stuff out of the freezer. We got those chicken legs, those smoked chicken legs. Did anyone here eat those yet? I mean, I had them. I thought they were amazing. Did you guys like them?
They were delicious.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. All right, good. Got a couple hands up. And I talked to a couple people this week who had ate them and they enjoyed them. And I'm glad about that.
They're huge.
Yes, they are big. You don't want to eat all of them in one sitting.
No, you don't.
I did, but you don't.
You didn't?
Yeah, it was. No, I did it. I just, I hate leftovers, and but we got meatballs and other things in there for you too. And then today we got actual hot dogs, and actual. They're like Vienna sausage hot dogs. They're really strange. They're like the Kogels, how they're stuck together, but they're sausages. They're very, very weird looking. So I'm going to wait and see who tries them first. And I think all hot dogs and sausage is pre-cooked, if I'm not.
I'll take one home.
All right, Matt, you'll be the test dummy. If Matt returns next Wednesday, then we know they were okay. If he doesn't return next Wednesday, then we'll have evidence.
I will be the test dummy.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Don't forget to stop by. Let me pray with you, and then we'll be done for tonight. Lord, we thank you and we praise you for being an awesome God to us. You constantly provide for us. In spite of the fact that things go on with COVID, with other things like that, you always bring about the best in our lives, consistently answer prayers, and we see you consistently move. Thank you for every person who comes out and joins us tonight and then listens to us online and may even catch this later on. I pray you bless their lives. Thank you for the 10 commandments that you gave us and that you loved us enough to tell us the best way to live. In Jesus' name, amen. Have a great night, everyone.
I'm taking Saturday off. I need a day off.
Go ahead.